The motel key blinks red in my hand, while smoke from the grill stings my eyes. A neighbor's volunteer sign says, "Residents and guests only," as if I don't belong. Then my son-in-law roars, "No space here, old parasite. Leave," hurling me from my own house. I didn't hear the ocean first. I heard the latch. The metal tongue in my front door clicked, then held like a mouth closing on a secret. My key met the cylinder, familiar teeth ready to bite. It wouldn't turn. Saturday, 9 a.m., sprinklers ticking. The house I'd paid for brick by brick looked back at me with a blank face. The door opened from the inside. Chase filled the frame with crossed arms and a smile he borrowed from a billboard. "We have no space here, old parasite. Leave." His voice carried across the cul-de-sac. Heads turned. A kid on a bike coasted to a stop. I kept my hand on the key. "You don't speak for this house," I said. "I do for this family." He set his palm to the jamb like a border. "Policy, Marty. We're reorganizing." "Policy? At my address?" He fanned a packet of papers without letting me read a line. "Rules are rules. You need approval to stay. You don't have it." My fingers shook on the key, not from age, from rage. My house, my sweat, and yet I'm the intruder. "Get Lena," I said. "She'll open the door." "She's resting, and we're not doing this on the porch." "You change the locks." I wasn't asking. "For safety." He said it the way you say for show, only softer. He tipped his chin at my car. "You'll want to be somewhere else by lunch." "Strange, isn't it?" I said. "A guest handing the owner his eviction." "Owner?" His mouth twisted. "Bring your papers to the board if it makes you feel better." Chase's friends stood in the dark hall behind him, elbows and grins. One laughed too loud, the laugh people use when they think they're safe. I pulled the key free and tried again, slow, listening for the tiny persuasion a lock offers the patient. The cylinder refused like a stubborn jaw. The screen door eased forward until it touched my knuckles. "Don't," he said, low. "There's an age where you learn the value of conserving your victories. You don't win on a porch with an audience, not when the other man owns the noise." I slid the key into my pocket. "Tell Lena I came by," I said. "Tell her I'll wait." "You do that." I stepped back onto the welcome mat that now read like a joke. The neighborhood hummed, leaf blowers, a radio from an open garage, the small civic life I'd bought and maintained. On the inside wall by the kitchen, taped crooked, I saw a bright flyer, burgers and balloons, the HOA's summer barbecue, Monday, 7:30 p.m. "We'll see you there," Chase said, catching my glance. "Or not." "This street knows my name," I said. "Not the way you think." The flyer's corner lifted in the air conditioning. I pictured the miles of cable I'd pulled to earn this place, the overtime, the lunches in a truck. I've always liked the honest math of work. Wire from A to B, lights turn on. Locks answer to whoever last held the screwdriver. "Close the door, Chase," I said. He did, slowly, leaving a slice of my face in the glass before it went black. I stood listening to my breath, and the sprinkler next door's shush. From the mailbox I pulled nothing, empty. I walked down the driveway as if it still belonged to me, because it did. The porch bulb I'd replaced last spring flickered once, then steadied. The kid on the bike circled. "Mr. Rios, you moving?" "Not today," I said. I opened the trunk for the duffel I'd packed and closed it again. No point carrying a bag to a door that doesn't know you. I leaned a knuckle on the hood, feeling the engine tick as it cooled. Across the street, a neighbor pretended to adjust her hose and gave me the smallest nod a person can give without being seen. That was the measure of the morning. Small courtesies, and a man on the wrong side of his own threshold. I looked at my hand. Line grease never fully leaves an electrician's fingers. It hides in the prints. That hand turned 1,000 screws in this town. It will turn this one too, just not today. I stepped off the porch and into the brightness. Headlights swept the curb as a car turned in at the end of the block, washing over my shoes. I stayed where I was. The keys were cold in my hand, and I held them like a promise I intended to keep. The office smelled like toner and lemon cleaner. The kind of place where they polish rules until they shine sharper than knives. I set my keys on the counter, metal that still meant something to me. The clerk didn't look up from her monitor. Name? Marty Rios. This is my property on Coral Way. My lock doesn't work. She clicked without hurry. You've been issued notice. Notice? A drawer slid. A packet surfaced. My name in bold on the cover sheet. Across the top. Violation/non-compliance. I didn't violate anything. I own the house. She stamped the top page. Red, fresh ink bleeding like a wound. Slide it across. Per bylaws, occupancy requires current approval. Approval to live in my home? Behind me, the door opened. Chase's voice found the room like it had been invited. Problem, Marty? I didn't turn. You don't govern a deed you never earned. Chase laughed once, short. Bylaws are clear. Vacant properties default to review. You weren't present at last quarter's meeting. Because I was working, like always. Then the board worked without you. My hands trembled. Paper can bruise deeper than fists. Bring this to next hearing, the clerk said. Monday, 7:30. She circled the line with her pen. Until then, occupancies suspended. Suspended, I repeated, letting the word weigh. Chase leaned closer. Don't take it personal. Rules are rules. Rules you write and bend. He gave me that smile, perfect teeth hiding rot. I picked up the stamped notice, folded it once, twice, put it in my pocket like contraband. Outside, the sun felt hotter. I drove past my own house and didn't slow. The porch light was on in daylight. Chase's way of showing who held the switch. By evening, I pulled into a low motel near the causeway. The sign buzzed, vacancy. The desk clerk slid me a laminated key card. 3 nights? 1. The plastic bent in my palm. A counterfeit key, access to a room that wasn't mine. I let the door lock behind me, sat on the thin bedspread, and laid both keys on the nightstand. My house key, rejected, and this card, temporary. The stamped notice crinkled in my pocket. It pulsed like a clock I couldn't stop. The clubhouse smelled of coffee burned hours ago. Folding chairs lined in rows, neighbors whispering like they'd come for theater, not business. Ceiling fans hummed, slow and heavy, moving the heat without relief. I set my folder on the front table. Tax bills, receipts, the deed itself. Pages that carried weight. My hand pressed them flat. This house is mine, I said. Paid every dime, every tax. 28 years on Coral Way. The chair tapped his gavel. We'll hear both sides. Chase leaned forward, lips curved. Both sides? Marty always wants to make it about pride. Let's show the board the reality. He nodded to a man by the projector. The screen blinked blue, then filled with my porch at night. There I was, shaky frame, cut rough. The clip showed me fumbling with my lock, jiggling the knob, muttering. Cut. Then again, only this time, my foot nudged the door like I was forcing entry. Cut. A neighbor's voice overlaid. He's not right. He's unstable. Gasps rolled through the room. One woman whispered, I knew something was off. A man 2 rows back murmured, that's disturbing. Spliced, I said. Anyone can cut tape. It's time-stamped, Chase said smoothly, and it shows aggression. Play the whole tape, if truth isn't against policy. The man at the projector looked toward Chase, not me. He shook his head. That's all we have. I held up my tax bills. These don't lie. The chair cleared his throat. Documents will be considered once certified. For now, we must proceed with caution. Caution, I said. You know me. You've waved at me from your lawns for 3 decades. A neighbor crossed her arms. Video doesn't lie. Neither do deeds, I said. The chair tapped the gavel again, faster now. Deferred pending verification. Deferred. The word carried the finality of a verdict. Verification of what? My voice cracked the room. That I'm not a stranger in my own home? No one met my eyes. The crowd wanted to leave with order, not truth. 2 weeks, the chair said. Reconvene in 2 weeks. He wrote it on the agenda board, marker squeaking. My heart pounded. Nothing cuts deeper than being called dangerous in your own living room. Chase leaned close enough for me to hear. Paper won't save you when the room already decided. I faced him. The room isn't the law. You'll learn the difference. But he'd already turned, basking in the nods that weren't earned. The gavel struck wood. The projector went dark. Papers sat ignored under my palm while the distorted version of me lingered in memory, whispered from row to row. I gathered my folder, pages still crisp, and walked past neighbors who whispered, softer now, not in sympathy but suspicion. The notice on the agenda board glared red. Reconvene in 2 weeks. My countdown had started. The motel sign buzzed the way bad fluorescent lights confessed their age. Vacancy, in red. One letter dim, as if the word were ashamed of itself. Inside, the lobby was a cube of cold air and old brochures. A corkboard held fishing charters, pawn shop coupons, and a bright HOA flyer with a cartoon grill. Summer barbecue, Monday, 7:30 p.m. Someone had pushed a thumbtack through the word community. The clerk didn't look up when I set my wallet on the counter. He wore a name tag that said Rick, but moved like a man waiting for his shift to end yesterday. Nightly or weekly? He asked. Nightly, I said. He slid a laminated key card across the marble-patterned laminate. Room 112. Ice machine out back. The card flexed under my thumb. You ever notice these things don't have teeth? I said. He blinked. Sir? Keys, I said. They used to have teeth. They earn their keep. Check out at 11. I took the card and my receipt. On the way to the hallway, I looked back at the corkboard. The flyer's edges curled away from the thumbtack like the paper was trying to breathe. Room 112 smelled of cleaner and ocean trapped in curtains. I set my duffel on the bed and shook out a shirt I didn't like. The air conditioner rattled, trying to make itself useful. On the nightstand, I placed 2 things. My house key, solid, cut metal, and the motel's plastic. The metal carried history. The plastic carried permission. Revocable at noon. 4 walls feel foreign when your own are stolen. I washed my face in the small basin and watched the water turn clear from gray. A line of sun slid under the blackout curtain and drew a bar across the carpet. A neat little cell. My phone vibrated. A text bubble from an unsaved number I knew too well. Chase, everything comfortable at the inn, Marty? I stared at the 2 keys. I let him wait. Then I typed, me. You can change a lock. You can't change a deed. The dots pulsed. Chase, house rules are still house rules. Try not to confuse possession with permission. M.E. Try not to confuse noise with law. He sent a picture. My front porch light burning in daylight like an insult. Caption, safety first. I put the phone face down. I didn't trust myself to keep the next message legal. A knock came from the shared wall, someone thumping a suitcase or a life into place. I stepped outside for air and walked the balcony. From here, you could see the causeway, long and flat, like a wire I'd once pulled with both hands. A couple in swimwear argued about sunscreen. A man in a crew shirt smoked and looked at nothing. Down in the lot, a neighbor from my street, Janice, the one who trimmed hedges with a ruler, pulled in and parked 2 spaces over. She spotted me before I could duck back inside. Mr. Rios? She called, surprised to find me where I shouldn't be. Evening, Janice. She hesitated, then gave a cautious wave. Heard there was a situation. There is, I said, temporary. She glanced at my door, then at her phone like it might advise her. Well, see you at the barbecue. The question mark did more work than the sentence. I don't miss neighborhood events, I said. She nodded, relieved to have finished a civic duty, and walked to the vending machine. Her sandals slapped the concrete. Even kindness, tonight, sounded like distance. Back inside, I opened my duffel, took out a small notebook, and drew a line down the center of a page. On the left, I wrote paper. On the right, I wrote people. Under paper, deed, tax bills, notice stamp, video, spliced. Under people, Gary, pastor, HOA chair, Janice, waiver. I liked lists. They keep you from yelling at the wall. My phone buzzed again. Unknown. Mr. Rios, this is Pastor Evans. Perhaps we should sit down, all 3 of us, and find a way forward. My thumb hovered. I saved the number and wrote pastor. Mediation offer under people, then put the notebook away. Not tonight. The room clicked as the AC cycled off. Quiet arrived with the sound of tires on the road and a gull that couldn't decide whether to leave. I palmed the motel keycard and slipped it into the slot. The green light blinked a lie. Welcome. I opened the door and stood on the threshold. 1 foot in, 1 foot out. From here, I could see the lobby corkboard at a diagonal through the glass. The bright flyer pinned to the world, the number 730 like a promise in a test. I locked the door and unlocked it again, just to teach my hands they still knew how. The card beeped each time without pride. The phone vibrated once more. Chase, don't embarrass yourself by showing up Monday. People talk. I let that sit. Then I typed, people talk either way. Monday they'll listen. He didn't answer. I picked up my metal key, ran a finger along its teeth. The motel card lay beside it like a counterfeit coin. I stepped back out to the balcony one last time. The corkboard waited. The flyer waited. The town waited to see what kind of man I would be when the show started. Reset the clock, I told the paper across the lobby, and myself. I closed the door on the sentence and let the green light go dark. The clubhouse smelled of folding chairs dragged out too often. A box fan clattered in the corner. I walked straight to the table, set down my folder, and opened it slow, like a dealer laying his best hand. This isn't a copy, I said. It's the deed itself. Raised seal, stamped and paid. I slid the thick paper across. The seal caught the fluorescent light, blind and true. For a moment the room leaned forward. A neighbor in the second row whispered, "That's official." Another murmured, "Looks heavy." The chair adjusted his glasses, ran a finger over the paper but didn't lift it. "We'll note this submission." Chase laughed, low. "Paper doesn't change behavior." "A rumor isn't a regulation," I said. "Behavior matters," he countered. "Ask anyone here. He's unstable." Shouting on porches, rattling locks. Murmurs rose like static. I pressed my palm flat on the deed. "Paper heavier than bricks, and still they don't see me." The chair raised his gavel. "We need time for counsel. Verification." "It's verified already." I tapped the seal. "That's the county's hand, not mine. We must avoid liability." "What you're avoiding," I said, "is doing your job." Chase leaned closer. "See? Aggressive." Hear it in his voice. I forced my jaw to unclench. Aggressive is standing between a man and his home. The gavel cracked wood. "Enough. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks." A marker squeaked on the wall calendar. "Review, 2 weeks." The fresh ink bled into the paper like a sentence handed down. Neighbors filed out. One brushed past me and muttered, "It's not worth the fight." Chase gathered his papers with exaggerated calm. "You can bring every certificate in the county, Marty. The board will still see what I see." "What you see," I said, folding the deed back into its sleeve, "is a man you can't erase." He smirked but didn't answer. I tucked the folder under my arm and walked out. Behind me the calendar glared, red ink drying, daring me to meet it. The church basement always smelled like coffee grounds gone cold. Folding tables, hymnals stacked in boxes, a cross on the wall that leaned left. Pastor Evans had set 3 chairs in a triangle. He offered his hand with a smile that wanted to fix things before hearing them. "Gentlemen, let's sit." I carried my folder under my arm, heavy with tax bills and the deed. Chase walked in empty-handed except for a leather binder, dark green, thick as a law book. Pastor folded his hands. "We're neighbors. Let's try to lower the temperature." "My temperature's fine," I said. "I'm locked out of my own house." "That's the problem." Chase set the binder on the table. "With respect, Pastor, this isn't about locks. It's about well-being." I laughed once. "Well-being?" He flipped the cover. A printed sheet stared up. "Adult Protective Services. Care Plan Draft." Across the margin, bold red letters. "Review, 7 days." Pastor's brow furrowed. "This looks official." "It's fabricated," I said. Chase tapped the page. "APS thinks Mr. Rios may need assisted living. This outlines concerns: agitation, forgetfulness, instability." I remember every payment I made, I said. Every tax, every repair. Ask the county, ask the bank. Pastor shifted in his chair. Marty, maybe it would help if you explained. There's nothing to explain. I pressed my palm flat on the table. That binder's a lie meant to write me out of my own life. Chase leaned back, voice smooth. Paper doesn't lie. Neither does the roof I put on in 2002. I shot back. Or the fence I fixed after Irma. Pastor cleared his throat. Chase, this material, who prepared it? Community care liaison, Chase said. Concerned neighbors sign statements. My voice tightened. Neighbors who smile in daylight and whisper at meetings. The pastor rubbed the bridge of his nose. Gentlemen, please. He turned to me. Marty, sometimes support services can help. Even a pastor mistook me for broken. I pushed the binder toward him. Read the cover. 7 days. They're trying to run a clock on me. Chase folded his arms. You've become a danger to yourself. I stared at the cross on the wall, tilted like it wanted to slip. The only danger here is letting liars file minutes as scripture. Pastor's voice softened. Maybe you should rest, Marty. We'll sort this out. I rose, collected my folder, and left the binder sitting like a snake in the middle of the table. Behind me, the pastor called, We'll meet again. Not if that's your gospel, I muttered. On the way out, I passed his keyring hanging from a peg by the door. Dozens of little teeth, metal earned. They jingled once when the door shut, like they knew the sound of exclusion. Gary's workshop looked like a garage that lost a bet with Radio Shack. Cables coiled like snakes, old speakers stacked in corners, monitors flickering with graphs only he could love. He motioned me toward a chair held together by tape and loyalty. Bring the drive? He asked. I held up the thumb-sized stick. Digital key to my own house. Let's see its teeth, he said, sliding it into a port. The largest monitor woke to my porch, grainy, tilted, a bad memory pretending to be a fact. People treat video like gospel, Gary said, fingers flying, but gospels have editors. Watch. He slowed frames, opened a pane of metadata, and scrolled. To me, it looked like rain on glass. He tapped a highlighted bar. This tag shouldn't live here between these two frames. That's a splice. The porch footage lurched. My hand on the knob, cut. My foot nudging the door, cut. Then my hand again, out of sequence. That's what they showed the board, I said, heat rising. Gary zoomed the audio lane. Hear this? Background voice has a different noise floor. Somebody laid it in later, like a sticker over old paint. On the monitor, a small word pulsed at the corner. Modified. Air returned to my chest. So it's dirty. It's dirty, he said. Can I fix it? I can try to restore the original timing. Think of it like unknotting wire without cutting it. He uncapped a marker and wrote on the whiteboard, 48 hours. Give me that long. 48, I repeated, feeling the count start in my bones. You've already done more than family. He tilted his head. That bad? I didn't answer. He glanced toward the door. Hit the restroom if you need. I'll spin a clone and start the pass. In the short hallway, a couple of neighbors stood by a vending machine. Faces I knew from lawn chairs and Christmas lights. That video was awful, the woman whispered. I told you he was off. Her partner shrugged. Chase said they're handling it. Better for the neighborhood. They saw me only when I passed. Their mouths snapped shut like windows in a storm. I nodded anyway and kept going, palms cold, anger steady. Back in the shop, Gary had the timeline stretched like taffy. Frames are numbered, he said, but what matters is continuity. Imagine counting 1, 2, 3, and someone shoves a 2.5 in there. You'll still end up at 3, but the rhythm's wrong. Rhythm tells truth. Chase never cared for rhythm, I said. Only results. My phone buzzed on the workbench. Voicemail. His name. I put it on speaker. Marty, Chase drawled, sweet as gasoline. Neighbors love the clip. Explains so much. Do us a favor and skip Monday. You'll spare yourself the embarrassment. Laughter. Click. Gary winced. Charming. I hit redial and waited through his greeting. My voice was level. Splicing truth won't change it. You'll learn that when the whole tape plays. I hung up. Gary pointed to the chain of custody folder he'd set aside. I'm logging receipt of the file in the restore steps. Clean line from you to me and back again. No one gets to call this magic. Strangers guard my truth better than my kin. I said, surprising myself with how tired it sounded. Then let a stranger hand it back. He saved a profile and leaned away. I'll run the long process tonight. We watched the frozen frame a moment. My porch, mid-lie, modified, glowing like a bruise you can finally name. I thought of the church binder and the stamped notice and all the other papers that had tried to turn me into a rumor. Cold metadata had offered me more warmth than either family or faith this week. At least it didn't lie to my face. Gary clicked the monitor off. The shop exhaled into dim. See you in 48, Marty, he said. Bring patience. I pocketed the empty USB. It felt heavier than metal. The whiteboard 48 hours followed me down the hallway and out to the lot. The neighbors by the vending machine avoided my eyes. The evening held its breath, and I let mine out slow. Truth was working in there, frame by stubborn frame. The bank lobby was cool and too quiet, carpet muffling every step. I hadn't been here in months, but the tellers still looked up like I'd walked into a chapel. I carried my folder under one arm, the same one I'd shown at the HOA hearing. Ignored then, maybe not here. A clerk waved me forward. Mr. Rios, the manager will see you. The office smelled of polished wood and toner. Mr. Daniels, pressed shirt, silver cufflinks, stood as I entered. He had that careful smile bankers practice, warm but not reckless. Sit down, Marty. I heard you wanted something formal. I slid my folder across. Not just wanted, needed. Board thinks I've lost my grip. Family whispers I can't manage my affairs. I need proof from someone who isn't a relative. He opened the folder, flipped through statements, tax receipts, 20 years of deposits. His brows lifted slightly. Meticulous. Every payment on time, I said. House taxes, mortgage retired, utilities never late. Records outlast gossip. He nodded, tapped his pen. What exactly would you like? A letter, I said. Bank certification. States I'm competent to manage accounts, that my records are sound. With a stamp, not opinion, proof. Daniels leaned back. That's unusual, but within policy. We can confirm payment history and note you've managed accounts responsibly. Put your seal on it. He studied me, maybe weighing age against steadiness. Finally, he rose, pulled a form from the cabinet. We'll keep it simple. 1 page, enough for any board or court. I watched him type. Customer, Martin Rios. History, continuous, accurate. No delinquency. Demonstrates capacity for independent management. He printed, signed, slid the page across. One thing remained. From the desk drawer he lifted a brass stamp, pressed it into the ink pad, then brought it down hard. The seal bloomed blue on the paper. I exhaled. An ink stamp gave me back what my own son had taken. Daniels met my eyes. Bring this to your hearing next week. It will carry weight. Hard to argue with clean records. Next week. A clock without numbers, but the deadline hung there all the same. I folded the letter, placed it in my folder as if it were crown jewels. The teller outside glanced up as I passed, eyes flicking to the seal visible through the folder's flap. Witness enough for me. On the steps, morning sun struck the paper. For the first time in weeks, I felt the ground firm beneath my shoes. Gossip had a loud voice. Paper had a longer memory. Gary's shop was darker than usual, blinds pulled, a single monitor humming blue against the clutter. He had the USB already slotted in. The file paused at my porch door. 48 hours, he said, and the frames lined up again. He tapped the keyboard. The clip rolled, me reaching for the knob, steady. Chase's hand slamming mine away, his body shoving forward. No skips, no phantom jumps. The sound hit too, his voice, sharp, uncut. Gary froze the frame. A small toast at the corner blinked once. Verified. I leaned closer. My shoulders had looked small in the doctored version. Now the truth filled the screen. So this is it. This is it. He opened a panel of diagnostics only he loved. Think of a song on vinyl. If someone scratches the track, the pop's in a different rhythm than the beat. Here the pops were out of step. I refitted the groove. Plain English. They messed with it. He nodded. And we unmessed it. He unplugged the drive and held it between two fingers like a house key. Your copy. Guard it. Don't upload. Hold for Tuesday. The USB clicked into its pouch with a sound heavier than any lock I'd owned. My phone buzzed on the workbench. Notification bubbles stacked one after another. Next door. Sandra C. Saw the clip. Sad. Maybe time he moved. HOA chat. Brian L. Safety first. Board should act before Monday. Next door. Anonymous. He was always shouting. Poor Lena. Gary frowned. They're still pushing the fake. They can scream till Tuesday, I said. Full context will be shown. He scribbled TUE on a sticky and slapped it onto the pouch. Visual reminder. Don't lose track. Another buzz, voicemail. Lena. The envelope icon blinked like a wound. Gary's eyes shifted to the screen, then back to me. Going to play it? I thumbed the phone but didn't press. The first words wrote themselves in my head anyway. Dad, Chase says you scared the neighbors. Maybe stay with Pastor until this calms. The next line was the one she wouldn't say aloud. I chose quiet over you. I set the phone down face first. Not tonight. Gary swiveled back to the console, rolled the clip one more time. Chain of custody. I received from you, cloned, restored, and I'm handing it back sealed. I'll sign a one-liner for the board. He tore a strip of blue tape, wrapped it around the pouch's zipper. Tamper flap. If it's ripped before Tuesday, we'll know. Strangers guarding my truth better than my kin, I said, and the words tasted like metal. He tilted a smile, then let a stranger hand it back. I scrolled the thread again, because sometimes you need to see all the way to the bottom to know where to dig. HOA chat. D. Patel. He wired our clubhouse after the storm. Doesn't sound like him. Next door. Sandra C. Reply. Video doesn't lie. Video lies all the time, Gary muttered without looking. People lie more. I breathed out slow. Records outlast gossip. That bank letter will help, he said, but crowds bend toward spectacle. Tuesday. You need a room and a screen. Let the beat land where everyone can hear it. He slid the pouch to me. The little sticky labeled TUE felt like a clock I could grip. Chase won rounds with noise, I said. We'll win with rhythm. Gary nodded. Rhythm tells truth. My phone pulsed one last time. The voicemail badge stayed red. I imagined her voice trying to thread the needle, daughter and wife both at once. And I knew if I listened now I'd call back. And if I called back, I'd spend my words where they wouldn't count. I pocketed the drive, proof in hand. House still locked. Family lying gone thin. We stood a second, watching the pause frame. My porch, uncut, unkind, verified like a bruise finally named. Gary powered down the monitor. I'll bring the projector Sunday night, he said. We'll test cables. Tuesday, I said, tapping the sticky. Then Monday. Then the rest of my life. He raised a hand in a small salute. Don't walk empty-handed anymore. I left with the pouch pressed to my side, weight like a tool you trust. Outside the street was quiet. One dog, one sprinkler, a few windows lit. My phone buzzed again with the hive's opinion. I didn't look. The USB's edge dug into my palm. It felt like teeth. Proof in hand, and still no one at home to hear it. The house looked the same from the curb. White paint steady, hibiscus still burning red along the fence. But the inside was different. The faint smell of cologne and detergent that weren't mine. Luggage wheels scratching tile. Doors closing too fast. The city inspector, a short man with steel glasses, clipped his ID to his shirt pocket and wrote the time at the top of his board. We'll walk room by room. Chase planted himself in the entryway. Ty half nodded like he was in charge. This is all a misunderstanding. Family permission. Just visiting friends. Behind him, a young couple tugged a rolling bag toward the stairs. The inspector raised a hand. Sir, those your relatives? They're friends of my wife, Chase said quickly. The woman glanced down, cheeks red. The suitcase wheels kept turning. I stepped forward. Friends don't pay through Airbnb. Check his account. He's been renting my home while I sleep at a motel. The inspector scribbled, pen clicking like a latch. Kitchen first. In the fridge, food was labeled in Sharpie. Tom, don't touch. Receipts spilled from the counter, one stamped with last night's date, my street name bold across the top. A plastic tub of takeout sauce leaked onto a shelf I'd scrubbed myself. Laundry, the inspector said. We opened the washer. Someone else's beach towels tumbled wet and heavy, sand nesting in the rubber lip. The smell of stranger sunscreen filled the small room. Guest room, he said, and we followed him down the hall. Sheets rumpled, 2 airline tags on the nightstand, a toiletry bag open with a razor, and a tiny bottle of cologne that pretended to be expensive. A phone charger snaked from the outlet like a squatter's root. Chase pulled a folded page from his pocket and thrust it out. Authorization, family consent. The ink of Lena's name wobbled like a child's. The inspector took it, studied the signature, then shook his head. Notarization? Chase hesitated. Family trust. The inspector slid the paper back across the dresser. Not valid. And receipts plus guests equal violation. Chase's jaw tightened. This is harassment. He's unstable. Code doesn't care about family fights, the inspector said, voice flat. Property used as rental without permit. 3 days to resolve. He clicked his pen and boxed the words on his clipboard. 3 days. We moved to the back door. Through the glass, Janice, my neighbor with the ruler-straight hedges, peeked over the fence. Everything all right? She called, voice thin. The inspector stepped onto the stoop. City inspection. Possible unpermitted rental. He said, professional and loud enough to carry. Janice's mouth made a small O. Social heat rose like noon. Inside again, I let the silence hang before I answered Chase. You can't lease what you don't own. He lifted the forged letter higher, as if height could make it true. My wife approved. The name on the line, Lena, looked like it had been dragged by a shaking hand. For a second, the ink blurred. Not the letters, my eyes. My daughter's name shouldn't be a crowbar used on me. The inspector tore a notice from his pad, tucked it behind the front window glass. Notice posted. Comply or face penalties. He nodded once at me. We'll reconvene Tuesday. The couple slipped out with their bags, heads low. A flip-flop smacked tile. A zipper caught on a step. The sound of their exit felt like fingerprints on my walls. Chase stayed frozen, clutching his fake letter. At the door, he leaned close enough for me to smell his aftershave. BBQ ends you. I met his eyes, calm as stone. The clipboard still flashed between us, stamped hard in ink. 3 days. Even forged paper couldn't drown the smell of strangers in my kitchen. County offices have a way of shrinking you on purpose. Low ceiling tiles, plastic plants that never learned green, a number screen beeping like a tired metronome. I took a ticket, sat, and watched people argue quietly with their lives. When my number blinked, I carried my folder to the counter and set it down with both hands. Affidavit on top, bank certification clipped behind it, the deed copy tucked like spine. The clerk didn't look up right away. She wore a lanyard heavy with keys to drawers no one else could open. Purpose of filing? Affidavit and attachments, I said. Capacity and standing. I need a hearing. She flipped the pages. Do you understand the contents, Mr. Rios? I do. Her eyes paused on the notarization. And this letter, bank manager's certification, verifies I've managed my accounts competently for decades. She made a non-committal sound. We're careful with elder filings. I prefer careful to careless, I said. A hand touched my elbow gently. Young woman, neat suit, badge from a local firm. He's with us for this filing, she told the clerk. Packet conforms. Affidavit references the certification without overreaching. We're simply asking for recognition and a hearing date. The clerk's mouth pinched. Recognition is the court's business. Then let us in the door, I said. She weighed me with a look, then set my papers on a rubber mat. I'll scan and return the originals. She slid them into a slot. The machine hummed. The screen bloomed and stuttered. Behind the glass, a deputy shuffled stacks with the indifference of a tide. The assistant leaned closer. "You did the right thing, mister. Rios, keep your language measured. Let the paper speak." "I've done a lot of speaking," I said. "Paper listens better." The clerk returned, stamping forms one by one, each thud a small earthquake. Filed. Filed. She paused over the scheduling slip. "Earliest opening is 7 days out." She didn't say the date. She lifted the stamp instead. It hit the paper hard. Another thud. Another lock turning. Even ink doubted me until the stamp fell. She slid the stamped face toward me. I didn't touch it right away. The impression was clean, raised around the edges like a seal. In the corner, an arrow pointed to hearing set, and beneath it, the clerk had inked a number I didn't need to repeat. I read the meaning, not the digits. "You're in." A buzz rattled in my pocket. I didn't need to look to know the name. Lena. The screen lit the counterglass with my daughter's letters. I let it ring, once, twice. Stopped it with my thumb before it reached my ear. I wasn't ready to spend my words where they wouldn't count. The clerk cleared her throat. "You'll receive notice by mail as well." "I'll be here before the mailman," I said. She raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure you grasp what happens next?" "It's formal, sharper than you think." The assistant hid a small smile and passed me a business card. "If Chase contacts you, don't respond in writing. Save it for the record." I gathered my papers. The stamp impressions were still damp around the edges. They smelled faintly of solvent and permanence. On my way past the benches, an older man watched me with the recognition of someone who's been weighed and measured by a counter. "Tough day?" he said. "Getting lighter," I answered. Outside, the morning had burned into noon. I set the folder on the hood of my car and checked the edges. No curls, no smears. The bank letter peeked through the pocket window, seal bright as a new coin. The sound from inside, the stamp's thud, kept echoing in my chest like a deadbolt finally turned. My phone buzzed again. "Lena." I let it sit this time. The assistant's words were still in my ear. "Let the paper speak." I slid into the driver's seat and placed the folder on the passenger side. Seatbelt over it like a passenger worth saving. The hearing clock had started. The rest of the noise could wait its turn. Pastor Evans picked a table by the window where the morning made halos out of dust. He waved me over with a smile that belonged to better news. "Coffee's on me, Marty." "I'll owe you one," I said, taking the chair that faced the door. "I like to see what's coming." The waitress slid 2 mugs between us. The cafe smelled like butter and burnt yesterday. On the corkboard by the register, a bright flyer shouted over fishing notices. "Summer barbecue, Saturday, 7:30 p.m. A thumbtack speared the word community again, like someone had a habit. Pastor stirred his cup longer than you need to stir black coffee. His keyring lay on the table. Church keys, office keys, tiny brass ones that probably opened closets of casseroles and hymnals. They chimed when his hand trembled. "Appreciate you meeting," I said. "I won't keep you long." "You should," he said softly. "Some talks shouldn't be rushed." "Then let's not." I leaned in. "You saw what they did. Binder, rumors. I've got the bank letter and the clean clip now. Tuesday I file, Saturday I show the truth. I want you there. One line that says I've been steady, that I'm not what they're calling me." He folded his hands like a steeple. "Marty, my role is to keep peace. Peace works better when it's standing on truth." He looked at the window instead of me. There's tension. The HOA, the social committee. People are tired of conflict. People are tired of being reminded conflict is work. The keys chimed again. He set his palm over them. "My wife helps lead the social. She says tempers are high. She worries if I take a side, I become the story." I didn't ask for a side. I asked for a sentence. I held up 2 fingers. 6 words. "I've known him steady for years." He let out a breath like a prayer that got confused on the way out. "Lena came to Bible study last night." She nodded along when Chase spoke about safety. My chest tightened. Safety from what? From me? She didn't accuse, Marty. She asked for patience, for boundaries. Boundaries? I laughed once, dry. I've got a motel key card and a front door that won't know me. Is that boundary enough? He flinched. Please don't make this harder. I leaned back, felt the chair complain. I'm not making it. I'm living it. The waitress refilled our cups, eyes doing the thing where they try not to show they've heard everything. When she left, the pastor cleared his throat. I was thinking, he said, perhaps Saturday is not the best time for speeches. Heated settings, they can turn ugly. Then they need light. The clip, perhaps let the board process it privately first. Privately is where they've been breaking me, I said. I'm not looking for a brawl. I'm looking for daylight. He pinched the bridge of his nose. I spoke with a few board members. Informally. They think public confrontation will embarrass their guests. Good. Maybe embarrassment will wake the honest parts of them. Marty. If even scripture bowed to bylaws, I said, what chance did I have? That isn't fair. Neither is branding a man unfit from a spliced video. He lifted his keys, let them fall. The sound was small and sharp. I can't stand with you at the BBQ. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. The cafe noise thinned to a hum. You won't? I can't. He gripped the keys until his knuckles went white. I'll pray for justice. I truly will. But I won't take the mic. My wife, the committee, it would divide the church. Tell her committees don't own conscience. He swallowed. I have to live with my flock after Saturday. And you. He stopped, searching for a soft landing he hadn't earned. You're strong, Marty. You don't need me. That's not the point. I know. Silence crowded the table. On the corkboard, the 7:30 p.m. jumped off the paper like a dare. I could hear the sizzle the flyer promised, taste the cheap ketchup, feel the crowd arrange itself into judges' rows. He tried again. Let me meet with you after. We can... No after, I said. After is for people who showed up. He blinked, wounded by the truth rather than what caused it. I'll keep you in prayer. Keep me in eyesight Saturday. That's how prayer learns to walk. We finished our coffee like two men honoring a treaty neither of us signed. He reached for the check. I put cash beneath the mug and stood first. At least tell Lena I asked for her, not about her, I said. Tell her I'm still the person who fixed the parsonage lights after Irma, no charge. She knows, he said. Then tell her to remember. I pushed my chair in. The keys chimed one last time under his hand, a choir of small betrayals. At the register, I stood a breath too long in front of the corkboard. The flyer was glossy, the thumbtack head scuffed. The word community had a hole through it you could thread a string. I walked out without looking back. The bell on the cafe door tried to make the moment feel normal. It failed. The diner's neon hummed the way a bad conscience does, present, thin, hard to ignore. Friday night, 7:30, families in booths, ball game on a small TV with the sound off. I chose the counter because it looked like neutral ground. Booth for one? I asked the waitress. She glanced past me as if permission lived elsewhere. We're holding those. For who? Just holding. The restroom key, big wooden fob the size of a paint stirrer, lay on the counter. When I reached toward it, she slid it back without looking up. The fob clacked against the register like a door closing somewhere I couldn't see. A boy at the end stool, 15 maybe, baseball cap backward, lifted his phone. Shutter click. He whispered to his friend, thumbs already moving. The screen washed his face blue. He's the guy from the video, he stage whispered, not to me. I kept my voice even. You take a good picture, take a true one. The friend smirked. Video's true enough. Sit tight, hun, the waitress said to them, then to me. Coffee? Please. The bell over the door jingled, and a woman in a state polo stepped in, a plain envelope in her hand. She scanned the room with a kind of practiced apology and came toward me. Mr. Martin Rios? Yes. She set the envelope on the counter, not hiding it. Adult Protective Services. Evaluation notice. Right here? Delivery must be in person. The teen leaned farther, already typing. The phone screen flashed as a new bubble popped. AP, S serving him at Mel's right now. I slid the envelope closer but didn't open it yet. You can evaluate me in daylight. I won't be the one hiding. That's the plan, sir, she said, polite and tired. Evaluation to occur, she tapped the header with one finger, within 48 hours. The word sat there in bold, bigger than the rest of the sentence. The ball game threw a white flare across the chrome rail, and the wall clock ticked louder, as if to keep score. My phone buzzed. Chase. For everyone's safety, Marty, cooperate. I typed back one line. Stop hiding behind forms. Then I sent another to Lena. Did you sign off on this? The bubble turned blue. And then nothing. No dots. No reply. The kind of silence that costs. The waitress poured my coffee without meeting my eyes. Booths are still held, she said, almost sorry now. For who? I asked. Ghosts? She swallowed. We're just trying to avoid a scene. Scene's already here, I said, and the teen's phone made that tiny whoomp sound of a post sending. The caseworker slid a small carbon slip from the envelope and placed it beside my cup. My card, she said, adding a paper rectangle with her name and a number. We'll be in touch to coordinate the visit. If you prefer witnesses, I prefer truth, I said. Witnesses come with it. She nodded once, relieved to have found a sentence that didn't fight back. Good evening, Mr. Rios. On her way out, she passed the corkboard, garage sales, a lost cat, and the HOA flyer with SAT, 7:30 p.m., like a timer strapped to the town. The teen looked at his phone and snorted. Comments are wild. Enjoy them while they're wrong, I said. He shrugged, bravado thin. Internet's never wrong. It's never quiet, I said. Different thing. He went back to typing. His friend sank into his milkshake, pretending to be furniture. I opened the envelope then, not for the room but for me. The header was official enough to make your pulse settle, even as your life shook. Evaluation, within 48 hours. Below it, boxes and lines that promised a stranger would decide if I remembered my own name. Paper with my name on it landed like a verdict, served with coffee. I folded the letter once, then again, and slid it under my saucer. The clock said what the letter didn't. Friday night. 2 days until the barbecue. 2 days until a screen might speak louder than the whispers. My phone buzzed again. Chase, tell your fan club to calm down. You're scaring people. I typed, deleted, typed again, and settled on nothing. Some messages are best answered by what happens in front of witnesses. The waitress set a plate down in front of an empty stool and then moved it away, as if she realized who might sit there. Sorry, she said softly. Not your rules, I said. The teen's phone chimed once more. His face fell a degree, like someone had replied with doubt. He glanced at me, then away. I didn't need the details. Doubt is the first hinge before a door swings. I left cash for the coffee and stood, the envelope back in my pocket, heavier than it looked. As I turned, the restroom key fob tapped the counter again. An accidental gavel. You'll get your seat back, the waitress said. So quiet I almost missed it. I'll take the whole table, I answered, and meant the room. Outside, the neon painted the cars a sickly red. Through the glass, I watched the caseworker climb into a sedan and write something on a form. The wall clock inside ticked toward the top of the hour. The booze went quiet like a held breath. I walked into the parking lot with the letter unopened, no longer, and the town's opinion buzzing in a boy's phone. 2 days. That would be enough. The motel reader blinked red like an eye that had made up its mind. Try it again, I said. The clerk slid my key card. Deadpan. The reader chirped and went red a second time. It's not recoding, he said, already bored. Manager says we need a fresh swipe. I'm extending a night, I said. Same card. He tapped a screen. There's a temporary hold. Security flag. We can't override. Security from what? Sleep? He shrugged toward the back office where rules were born. Policy. You can pay cash. I can. Tomorrow. I kept my voice flat. Tonight I need a door. He glanced at the wall clock and the plastic sign under it. No exceptions, as if it were scripture. Can't reissue without a new authorization. The reader chirped red one more time just to be sure. Money, doors, faces, everything said no at once. I pocketed the dead card and shouldered my bag. Outside, heat held on to the day like a grudge. I walked toward the park by the clubhouse, where the HOA was already building tomorrow out of grill smoke and optimism. String lights hung from poles like a promise, half of them lit while a volunteer tested plugs. Someone called, "Tomorrow, 7:30, and a half dozen heads turned as if time itself had walked in. A folding table wore a sign in block letters, "Residents and guests only." A woman in a safety vest straightened it until it faced the world like a dare. A ring of event keys jingled on her belt, each one more welcome than the last, just not for me. I set my bag by the curb. "Evening," I said. She gave me the smile people use when they want to stay out of things. "Evening. I'll be attending tomorrow. Residents and guests," she said, touching the sign as if it could talk. "I am both. I am the resident. I own the house 100 feet from where you're standing." Her eyes flicked to the volunteer radio on the table. It squawked. "Copy, gate," a voice said. "Watch for Rios. Per chair." She tried to make it sound like nothing. There were concerns. "Concerns don't own a gate," I said. The radio squawked again. "Keep it orderly." No incidents. A car slowed. Chase leaned a forearm on the open window. "Evening, Marty." He didn't get out. His voice traveled fine on gasoline. "Security's got instructions. Don't embarrass yourself." "You can't bar me from my own address," I said. He tilted his head. "Residents and guests. Pick one." "I already did," I said. 30 years ago." He laughed once and rolled on, the tailpipe answering for him. My phone buzzed. "Lena, please don't make a scene tomorrow." I stared at the words. I typed, "I'll make a record," sent it. Watch the dots come and go. Then nothing. The volunteer pretended to measure the distance between two stakes. "We're just trying to keep it nice," she said. "Nice is when truth gets a microphone," I said. "I'll bring one." She swallowed, keys jingling faintly. "I'm sure everything will be resolved." "I am too." On the green, two teens tugged an extension cord that didn't want to reach. The string lights flickered, then steadied. Warm bulbs, friendly in a way the evening wasn't. I shouldered my bag again and walked the sidewalk that used to feel like a welcome mat. The porch of my house was dark now. Even that insult had learned subtlety. At the end of the block, I could still hear the volunteer call to a coworker. "Tomorrow, 7:30, as if saying it enough times would make the town stay simple. Back at the motel, the clerk didn't look up when I passed through the lobby. I tried the dead card on my door out of habit. The light blinked red, loyal to its decision. I stood there a minute with my bag, then set it down and leaned against the rail. Cars moved on the causeway like slow thoughts. Across the street, someone's TV laughed for them. The keycard edge pressed into my palm. It felt like nothing and said everything. I looked toward the park again, where the lights had come fully on. I listened until I heard it one more time. "Tomorrow, 7:30, and let the words mark the hour in me. The card failed again between my fingers, a small, stubborn piece of plastic that still believed policy could outrun proof. By the time the sun slipped under the palms, the green was packed. Paper plates, lawn chairs, kids weaving between coolers. The inflatable screen rose like a sail, and the projector whirred itself awake. I stood by the folding table that held the mic and a small stack of agendas. I set my metal house key on the table, teeth up, and waited. The HOA chair tapped the microphone. "Order, please. One agenda item before the raffle. We will address concerns regarding the home at Coral Way." He cleared his throat. "Mr. Rios has asked to present a short video." Murmurs. A few groans. Somewhere near the grill, someone said, "Just get it over with." I kept my voice steady. 2 weeks ago, a splice clip turned my neighbors into jurors. Tonight we play the whole tape. Chase materialized at the edge of the stage. Tape, hands up as if he could hold the air. "This is a private event," he said. "We can't. Privacy. The chair lifted a palm. We'll hear it. Gary, already crouched by the projector, nodded once. The teen from the diner stood near the front, phone in hand, thumb hovering. Janice hugged her purse against her ribs. Pastor Evans watched from the far side of the crowd, head bowed as if blessing or apology were the same posture. Roll it, I said. The screen filled with my porch, steady and bright. No skips, no lurching. I reached for the knob. Chase's hand slapped mine away. His shoulder drove forward, pinning me back. His words landed clean in the speakers. We have no space here, old parasite. Leave. Gasps popped like corn. Chase tried again. This is old footage. Out of context. Play it through, the chair said. The clip ended on an image of my own front door shutting in my face. Gary let the silence stretch, then muted the projector. The green held still, the crowd listening to the absence of the lie. I picked up the mic. You threw me out of my house. Tonight, the house speaks. The inspector stepped forward, clipboard under his arm, no screen needed. City inspection found unpermitted short-term rentals at the property. Notice posted, fines pending. We expect compliance. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The chair took the mic back. Effective immediately, Mr. Rios's homeowner rights are reinstated. Mr. Whitaker is barred from managing or altering the property. We'll convene formal enforcement tomorrow at 9 a.m. He said it like a bell. The teen by the stage looked down at his phone, swallowed, and with 2 quick taps deleted something. He didn't look up at me, but his shoulders dropped. I found Lena at the rope line, eyes glassy. Dad, she whispered. Don't spend it on sorry, I said softly. Spend it on right. Her mouth trembled. I should have. You still can. My voice stayed even because it had to. Start by standing back while the adults fix this. She nodded, tears tipping, and stepped aside. Chase's face had gone gray. He reached for the mic without permission and missed. Marty, he said, voice thin. Please, don't press this further. He looked at the screen as if it might change if he stared hard enough. I can fix it. I'll make it right. I'm sorry. The last 2 words came out broken, like he had to chip them free. People in the front row turned to look at him the way you look at an actor who forgets his lines. Pity edged with satisfaction. Someone near the grill booed once, short and clean. Janice, of all people, started clapping with small, tidy hands. Others joined. It wasn't a roar. It was better. It was a decision. The chair raised the mic. Neighbors, thank you. We will issue written notices after tomorrow's session. For tonight, enjoy your evening. I reached for my key on the table. The chair met my hand and slid it toward me with 2 fingers, deliberate. Welcome home, Mr. Rios, he said into the mic without show. I closed my fist around the metal and felt the old weight come back like a pulse. The screen behind me showed nothing now but the faint ghost of my doorway, and that was enough. Chase tried again, lower, only for me. Please, Marty. Don't ruin me. You did that work yourself, I said. I just turned on the light. He swallowed and looked down. The crowd parted around him without touching. Gary unplugged the projector with a nod that didn't need words. The inspector checked one last box, then tucked his pen away. Pastor Evans lifted his eyes to mine from across the green and gave a small, slow nod, the kind a man offers when the sermon is finally over. I stepped off the edge of the stage tape. Lena reached for my sleeve, then stopped, letting the key in my hand finish the sentence. The string lights hummed. The night air moved like it had been locked too long. I walked toward the path that pointed home. 9 a.m., the chair said, gavel light, voice steady. Enforcement session is now in order. We were in the HOA conference room, fluorescents, coffee in a cardboard box, name placards that tried to look official. The inspector stood to one side with his clipboard tucked under his arm like a stern uncle. Chase sat 2 chairs back, smaller than last night, eyes fixed on the table grain as if there were answers there. The chair read from a single sheet without flourish. Effective immediately, Mr. Rios's homeowner access and control are restored. Mr. Whitaker is barred from managing or altering the property and may not host overnight guests. City penalties for unpermitted rentals will be assessed through the usual process. The inspector nodded. Fines are due. If unpaid, lien follows. Compliance checks will continue. Chase cleared his throat. If there's a payment plan, you'll coordinate with the city, the chair said, not with Mr. Rios. He turned to me. Locksmith is on site. Will accompany you to verify entry and rekey. We crossed the green in a small procession. Chair, inspector, locksmith with a toolbox, me. Chase and Lena trailed 20 feet behind, like a thought the morning hadn't decided on. At my door, the locksmith glanced at the old hardware. Won't take long. He set down a canvas roll. Tools winked. A little brass blank shone like something unspent. He worked fast, face close, movements crisp, the satisfying clink of pins learning a new story. Chase edged closer. Marty, he said, hands out. Let me help put it right. I'm done carrying your mess, I said. You'll carry the fines. He took it, flinched a little like the truth had a handle. The inspector moved through the hall, opening closet doors, checking nothing had grown legs overnight. Clear, he said back in the entry. The locksmith straightened, wiped his hands, and pressed a fresh key into my palm. Try it. I slid it into the new cylinder. The bolt turned with a clean, adult sound. Something inside me unclenched that had been clenched so long it thought it was bone. The chair held up a plastic gate fob between two fingers. Access restored. He dropped it into my other hand, like you hand a man his name. Lena stepped to the threshold. Dad? Her voice was careful. If you want, I can come by later and... No spare keys, I said. Not yet. I understand. She looked at the floor. I should have stood up sooner. You still can, I said. It starts with boundaries. You respect mine. I'll keep loving you from inside of them. She nodded, small, honest. Okay. Chase tried again, lower for me alone. Please don't lock me out of everything. You locked yourself out, I said. I changed the door. The locksmith handed the chair a small form to sign, then caught himself. I'll email the receipt, he said. You don't need another piece of paper today. Good, I said. I've got enough of those. The inspector gave a final summary without any theater. No more short-term guests. Inspections unannounced. Fines due as scheduled. You, he added to Chase, don't touch what you don't own. The chair tucked his pen away. Mr. Rios, anything else you need from us right now? Just room to stand, I said. They filed off the porch, chair, inspector, locksmith, leaving air I recognized. Lena hesitated, then squeezed my arm and went after them. Chase lingered in the yard until he understood there wasn't a stage left. He turned and went, smaller with every step. I stepped inside. The house did its old trick. Quiet that isn't empty. I walked the perimeter. Kitchen, hall, living room. Touching nothing, counting everything. The TV remote where it should be. The old recliner facing the window. The smell of my walls returning like a tide. In the entry, I set the gate fob on the console and held the new key up to the light. I didn't win a war. I took my house back. On the porch, I set the timer for the porch light, the way I always did before a work week. The switch gave a small click that sounded like a future behaving itself. I locked the door and checked it once. The bolt answered with the clean confidence of things correctly named. Then I closed the door. I walked the room slow, not to count losses but to measure quiet. Patience did the heavy lifting. Paper, witnesses, and one clean clip, until there was no space left for the lie. I set boundaries like furniture. What stays, what doesn't. I turned the new key and the bolt answered with a clean, final click. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Type 1 if you resonate with this story.